Is Taiwan a country, or is it a part of China? If so, which China is it? In this video, we're going to be examining the history to see why the dispute existed in the first place, and by the end of this video, you should have a good understanding of it. But first, let's take a look at the background. The status of Taiwan is a controversial topic. Taiwan is an island in East Asia claiming to have their own country, Republic of China or ROC. West of Taiwan, however, lies another country also claiming to be China, the People's Republic of China or PRC, which is about 267 times bigger. While the majority of countries recognize the PRC as the legitimate government, 11 UN member states and the Holy See recognize the ROC instead. So why is that? Well, it has a lot to do with the history of China. During the early 20th century, the Qing dynasty, which was the last imperial dynasty, was deeply unpopular. It was overthrown by revolutionaries who founded the Republic of China. Now, it is important to note that the new government at the time was not unified. It was weak, and the country was divided into multiple regional factions, each with their own military. The country entered into a period of history known as the warlord era, when it was divided into factions headed by warlords that were fighting each other. Eventually, the country was nominally united under the Kuomintang, or the Nationalist Party. However, the warlords were still in charge of their respective regions, and the country was still, to put it mildly, fragmented. Amid this chaos rode the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. Initially, it was welcomed because forming political parties was encouraged. The CCP and the ruling Kuomintang coexisted in peace. That is, until the Kuomintang decided to massacre them in 1927 because communism sucks, and with that started the first phase of the Chinese Civil War. In the Civil War, the Kuomintang was way stronger than the CCP, having way more resources and troops. But the CCP's leader, Mao Zedong, was a talented military commander, and under his command, the CCP strategically retreated and focused on guerrilla warfare. This turned the war into a stalemate, during which neither the Kuomintang can fully eliminate the CCP, nor can the CCP win the war. Now, that was the first phase of the Civil War, which ended in 1936, because the two parties realized that they should stop fighting each other and instead fight the Japanese, who have already occupied a large part of northeastern China. But as you'll know, the Chinese won the war against Japanese, so after the war, without a common enemy, the Civil War continued. This time, though, the situation is a bit tricky. The Japanese have surrendered to the Kuomintang government, but the Soviets, who have invaded the Japanese-occupied northeast, handed that land over to the CCP because they like communism. The communists now occupy northeastern China with plenty of factories that were built by the Japanese during the war. They were led by Mao Zedong, who, as you will remember, was a brilliant military leader. The Kuomintang, on the other hand, had been significantly weakened during the war against the Japanese. And with that, the balance of power began to tip in the communists' favor. And eventually, after 3 years of fighting, the Kuomintang lost the war. However, while the entire mainland was lost, they retreated to the small island of Taiwan in the East China Sea, and they remained there to this day. Now, the Kuomintang government at this time was still recognized as the legitimate government of China until 1971, when a UN resolution was passed to recognize the mainland communist government. Many countries have also ended diplomatic ties with Taiwan around that time. Today, mainland China is a dictatorship with its citizens having no political rights, which stood in stark contrast with Taiwan, which became a democracy following a series of political reforms. And with that, friends, is how we ended up with two Chinas.